Testing 1 2, testing 1 2. Welcome back. You are on the Q with Q, and you're here for another episode of Q the Mind. This is episode 7, and the name is Disarmed by the Charm. And let me tell you, at some point or another, I'm sure we've all been disarmed by the charm. And today, I want to take you back to something that happened to me some months ago. I had bought a new vehicle right around the end of this previous term. With Biden, there were incentives on EV vehicles. You get a $7,500 rebate for either leasing or buying an electric vehicle. And with me already being in the car industry, like a lot of these different things, I was already in the know about. But that incentive, Trump was ending that incentive on September 30th. So with the gas that I was spending, plus the car note that I had at the time, I had equity in my vehicle. And I'm like, it only makes sense to go ahead and flip this gas car for an electric vehicle. So I did that. I bought a 2025 Chevy Equinox. Great purchase. I was very happy with it. It cut my spending down on my automobile by almost 50%. So definitely a great purchase. And within 4 months of that purchase, I found myself needing a recall, which is totally normal. A lot of new cars need recalls. So I set my appointment, came in, I asked him like, hey, how long do you think this is going to be? Got some work I can do. So if it's not too long, sit here, knock my work out. Oh, yes, Mr. Harris, it's going to be 90 minutes. Everyone was great. I mean, I felt at home. I felt very much received. The customer service was outstanding. But then 90 minutes turned into a couple hours turned to 3 hours. Next thing I know, I'm at 3.5 hours here. And I'm like, I'm done with my work for the day. And I'm like, yo, what is happening with my vehicle? Oh, Mr. Harris, we don't know, why it's not taken to the system. Shouldn't be that much longer. And I'm like, yeah, that's not going to cut it. I need to get home. So at that point, they got me a shuttle, got me back home, said, we'll come back and get you in the morning if we don't finish it by today. And I'm like, that's fine. I don't need the car tomorrow. I'm working remotely, so we can get it resolved at that point. Early that next morning, it worked out for my wife to just be able to drop me off right when the service center opened. The car was done. I picked the car up, came back home. Did you know that they still sent the shuttle to come and pick me up? I didn't get a phone call. The shuttle just shows up like, hey, we're coming to get your car. I'm like, I already have my car. Let's fast forward. A little bit after that, my screen goes out. Shortly after I got the recall, my Google Maps in particular goes out. The rest of the screen is working. Schedule another appointment, bring the car in. They look at it, they reset it, get the screen back going. Within a couple of days, screen goes right back out. Call, schedule another appointment. Come in. At this point, there is no fix. They can't figure out what is going on with the car. There's no fix. Throughout this entire process, when the screen went out, I got a loaner car the first time. Second time, they give me a loaner car, and they're like, hey, we're seeing these pop up around with different vehicles. So we'll let you know when we get it fixed. But right now, essentially you're telling me that I have to ride around without my navigation on a brand new vehicle that I just paid for. Now we're starting to hit a problem because I realized like, hey, I am about to allow inefficiency to slide because the people are really great and I'm getting really great customer service. And that's when it kind of hit me. I'm like, yo, what is happening here? I've been disarmed by the charm. And so I realized that I needed to escalate this thing. And so, I ended up doing that and I found out way more information. And essentially, I got all the way to a fix, but I would not have gotten to that fix if I did not push back on, this great customer service, on the charm that I was experiencing. I had to be like, hey, this is great and all, but I need y'all to fix my car, right? And so we got to it, but I realized like, hey, how many times have I allowed this to slide and other things that pertains to my business, right? So with that, we're going to dive into the 4F breakdown. And of course, we always start with fact. What is undeniably true about the situation? And so simply put, charm can't unmask broken systems, or it can't mask broken systems. If you have a system that is broken, it's only so much that charm is going to do. It's only going to be a matter of time before folks realize like, wait a minute, like these are great people, but there's something missing within this process. So as said, the customer service was excellent. However, the communication was inconsistent. When something needed to be escalated, it was delayed. The process started to become very inefficient. It's like, hey, like what is the process when these things happen? You're telling me you'll give me a call when you get a fix. There has to be something in between that can be done here. And then I realized that there was really, a blur around who the ownership was supposed to be with. And I realized that when I reached out to the service manager. And I'm like, even he's kind of like, oh, well, let me look into this. Or, corporate doesn't know what they're talking about. And you know that Spider-Man meme when everybody's, pointing at everybody else. And again, doing it with the sweetest spirit. And so, I'm sitting here like, yeah, okay, I see what's happening. And so the fact that I almost did not push back because the fact that the service was really good, it led me to wonder, yeah, I have to write a podcast about this because this is something that I'm sure other folks have experienced. But not only that, are you a leader who has really hyped up and preached, showing up well for your clients, but behind that, there may be some inefficiencies. So today we're just going to really talk about how we unearth that, how we get to it, and realize that when your product isn't functioning, that's really what matters over the great customer service. You want to maintain that. You always want to come with the charm. But if the product is not functioning, that's what really matters. And so that was what was undeniably true about this situation. So now we're going to go and we're going to move on to our fluency piece. What deeper understanding must we develop? So emotional intelligence requires discernment. So let's keep that in mind. Here's a deeper layer here. We often confuse how someone makes us feel for how they perform. And this is a cognitive bias. Do not confuse how someone makes you feel with how they perform. When someone is warm, when they're personable, when they're accommodating to you, we can subconsciously be like, oh, they're competent. Don't allow that to establish credibility in this case. That's not a good way of being. Operational excellence is not just measured within personality. So think of these 4 things that we will measure perfection or excellence by: clarity, ownership, accountability, and efficiency. Those things will let you know if someone deserves credibility, not just charm alone. So this is going to connect directly to one of the principles we'll talk about with Robert Greene later on. But it's very easy to have that cognitive bias when you get that charm, and folks are not doing it out of maliciousness. It's really not. If you have good customer service, that is something that is going to come naturally. But competence is going to deliver for you. So you want to have both charm and competence. But however, they are not the same thing. So the next time you come into a place and somebody makes you feel really, really warm prior to delivering on a service, always self-check yourself and say, okay, man, they made me feel really, really good. But am I using that to establish what performance looks like in this case? So when I leave here, what do I want to feel like? I want to feel warm, but I want to feel like whatever my problem is or whatever service I came in for, I'm leaving with that and feeling that good about that thing the same way that I am feeling good about their customer service. So let's move on to function. How do we apply this learning? So how to avoid being disarmed by the charm. So a simple framework that I came up here with. You want to separate your experience from your outcome. Am I satisfied with how this feels or how this performs? Ideally, you want both. But I would prefer mediocre customer service and leaving feeling really, really good about how something performs than leave feeling good about the customer service and I'm iffy about how something performs. So that's important. Separate the experience from the outcome. 2, measure process and not personality. Are the timelines clear? Is the ownership defined? Is the escalation documented if it needs to be? And then lastly, are my next steps concrete? Like, do I know where I go from here? If not, then the process is not right. So remember, measure process, not personality. Number 3, don't confuse gratitude with obligation. You can appreciate someone's effort and they can still be excellent in how they deliver on that service. And then lastly, advocate without emotion. So if something is not going the way that you want it, if the process is not getting you to where you need to be, like, hey, I don't like how this is performing, or I don't like the service that I receive. Customer service was great, but the actual product service was not. Calm escalation is not aggression. So you can do that without being malicious. You can do that without being rude. You can be like, hey, man, I appreciate everything that you're doing, but I'm really not satisfied with this. Like, what is the next step for me here? Is there someone that I can talk to? Who can I escalate this to? Like, I just need a little bit more here. And like, for example, when I called corporate and they told me that there was not a TAC number, it's like a technical assistance number that they were supposed to give me. The service manager kind of got a little put back, like, oh, they don't know what they're talking about. And I'm like, well, if they don't know what they're talking about, help me understand what they should be talking about. And that's where the disconnect really came from. Clarity in those types of situations is going to protect the value of the brand. And so always be thinking about that. Like, am I protecting the value of my brand? Am I being charming? But also, am I being competent, right? And that's going to protect the value of your brand. Lastly, freedom. The power of intentional standards. Freedom is going to help us unlock something internally through this. And so when you stop being emotionally disarmed, these are the things that you're going to gain. You're going to gain confidence in what your personal standards are. So when I show up somewhere and I anticipate a certain type of service, whether the customer service is great, I know what my standards are and I know what that looks like through that product. 2, be very clear in your communication. When you have clarity on what it is that I expect the outcome to be, regardless of the charm, they're going to know, like, he's not going to be satisfied with this no matter how much I smile at him. Then advocate with strength. Like, go out there and really advocate, for yourself, or if you're client facing, be strong in your advocation for your client. And then lastly, alignment with what you deserve. Like, just be completely aligned with, like, when I come out of this thing, this is what I expect. And when you're clear on that, you can communicate that from a way of calmness, a peaceful way, in a way that does not disrupt the charm that you're getting. Because what you don't want to do is turn someone who's providing great customer service against you, right? And so you want to keep them in that space of where they feel safe as someone who is serving, but you also want to let them know, like, hey, the reality of it is, like, what I got is not aligned with what I was expecting. It goes back to that first point of just having confidence in your own standards, okay? So freedom comes from understanding that you can be kind and still require something that is better. You can be patient throughout a process, even if it slows down a little bit. Like, hey, I would prefer you to take your time and get me to where I need to be than, to be just simply nice and I leave here unsatisfied. So we went through the fact, we went through the fluency point function, and we went through freedom. And so now we're going to look at this from a spiritual lens. And I've used this verse in the past, but from a biblical standpoint, we can go right back to Proverbs. I want to say, like, out of 7 episodes, we've probably used Proverbs 3 to 4 times. And so Proverbs 4 and 7 says, wisdom is the principal thing. Therefore, get wisdom, in all thy getting, get an understanding. And so you want to be very, very clear. One, what is the outcome that I'm supposed to be receiving? But also you want to be very clear stepping into a location or a place of services. This is the outcome that I expect. And so you want to be very clear on both of those sides. Wisdom is going to tell you, don't just observe the behavior, but also observe the systems that are informing what it is you are receiving. That is very, very important. Okay, so we looked at the biblical lens. I want to go back to that Robert Greene point because I put it a little bit earlier in my notes here, but this is going to come from the laws of human nature. Robert Greene speaks to people are skilled at presenting the image they want you to see. People are very skilled. I am very skilled at presenting the image that you want to see. Sometimes I'll hear clients say things to me that I'm like, yeah, that's not it. But they won't see that on my face. They'll be like, oh, okay. They'll see interest. They'll see, me presenting a listening ear. Even within my career, there's times when I will have parents of the children that I serve, they'll come and ask me questions and I'll look at them with just the biggest smile, with all the love in the world. But in my mind, I'm thinking, you didn't read my email or you didn't go through the information that I sent you. You want me to answer that question. You don't want to do any of the work. And this is supposed to be a partnership, right? And so I see that and it's okay. Like, I still want them to know that I'm here for you, but there are times and there are appropriate times when I have to reestablish what my boundaries are. And it's like, hey, this is a partnership. So there's so much work that I'm going to do, but there's also a little bit of work that I need you to do as well. And I can do that in a way that is charming. I can do that in a way that is sweet and that represents the brand that I want to have. And so that is very, very important, because you don't want to be disarmed by the charm, but you also don't want to disarm somebody by being charmless. Like that's equally as important. Now, let's look at the POS model. From the POS model, we're only going to be looking at two different sides of the diamond here. For the first one, we want to look at social emotional learning. And social emotional learning in this space is really going to speak to more about discernment. What are your biases? What are the biases of the individual who are serving you? You want to be very aware about that. And then lastly, communication, because it is very easy to get disgruntled and to get upset when we're not getting what it is that we want. But we have to be careful about how we may be disarming. And so the same way you don't want to be disarmed by the charm, you don't want to disarm someone else by coming at them harshly, especially if they are being sweet, if they are being polite, because they may not be the reason that the mask is broken. And so I want to be very clear about that. How you show up is also a representation of your own brand. And then the last one is academics. This really speaks to critical thinking and analysis. Because they had me for a second. I'm sitting here like, you talking about my third visit? And I'm like, what am I missing here? I'm like, because like it seems like you guys have it all together. And of course, you have the customer service part down, but there were a lot of inefficiencies with the way that they were handling their business. So the last two that we like to look at are the personal and the business development applications of this. And so I'm going to leave you here with a couple of questions from the personal development standpoint. 3 questions to be exact. So this is what you want to ask yourself. Where am I tolerating underperformance because I like the person or I like the place? Where am I tolerating underperformance? 2, where have I lowered my standards out of loyalty? Are you loyal to a brand? And have there been times when that brand has not shown up in the way that you felt like they should show up? Feel free to write that email. You'd be surprised, like the type of coupons or the discounts that you'll get when you write that email when you are not satisfied with the service, especially for organizations who say that 100% satisfaction guarantee. If you're not satisfied with something and you're paying your money, reach out, express yourself. And then lastly, am I confusing good energy with good execution? That is key. Am I confusing good energy with good execution? You're half of the way there. Like your energy is wonderful, but that execution piece, I need it to be a little bit more spot on. Okay. So here's a journaling prompt for you. Where have I been disarmed by the charm, and what standard do I need to reestablish? So that's our personal development application. Now, let's look at the business development application. If you're a founder or a leader, it hits even deeper for you. You may have great culture. You may have great personalities. You also may have great customer interactions, right? But broken internal systems and charm may be protecting your blind spots. So these are the 3 questions that you want to ask yourself. Do we document escalations properly? One of the things that I had to learn very early on within my career is like when parents come to me about certain things, and it could be just a simple piece of feedback. It's great to listen and give them a listening ear, but after I listen, I need to make sure that I go write that thing down, because it's very easy to be weighed down by the demands of the role, and you'll forget that that little thing is important. There's a scripture that says it's the small foxes that spoil the vine. And so I have to be very mindful of the fact that, hey, that little bit of feedback, that person may have echoed something that others are thinking. And so it's very important for me to make sure that I'm documenting escalations, feedback, whatever that may be. 2, are we proactive or are we reactive? I witnessed a situation not too long ago where I was like, man, that was a reactive way to respond to this. And it really started to make me think about what would the proactive approach look like. So that way I can either advise on the proactive steps or I can make sure the proactive steps are happening. And then lastly, do our systems match our service energy, right? So the service energy, again, can be great. You can be showing up with that smile. People can feel really, really welcome. But does the systems match that service energy? So as a founder, ask yourself those questions. In hyper-focused consulting, we exist for this particular gap. Like, this is exactly what I go out and I help my founders do. Like, help them figure out where their gaps are. Like, hey, I'm having a hard time getting here and I just can't put my finger on it. Well, talk me through your process. Let me hear what it is that you do. Talk me through, your first quarter. Talk me through your second quarter. And 9 times out of 10, I am able to figure out like, oh, I know exactly where your gap is. And I also have to prepare them for being able to hear it. And this is where, as a consultant, I have to approach the work with charm. Like, hey, I see the inefficiency, and I'm going to tell you with the sweetest voice possible. I'm going to tell you with the sweetest energy possible. But I need you to be able to accept that that is a system issue. Okay. So here's some strategic leadership insight. These are the things that operational excellence requires. And I've learned this over my time, and I'm still learning what it looks like. Like, the deeper and the more complex my work gets, I have to tell myself like, hey, operational excellence looks like this. Clear documentation. Like, you have to have it documented. 2, what does accountability look like? It has to be defined. Accountability cannot be something that is reactive, because if you've never set the tone on what accountability looks like, then when it's time to hold someone accountable, they're like, I didn't know, And so accountability has to be defined. Transparent timelines. Like, it has to be very clear on like, hey, this is when we need things done. This is how it should be done. And this is what the follow-up period looks like. Transparent timelines. And then lastly, escalation protocols. When things do not go right, when things do not go as planned, this is what the protocol is to fix it. And typically, if you have clear documentation, define accountability, and the timelines are transparent, typically you're going to have a protocol for that escalation. So without that, you don't have pure service. And a lot of things then become reactive. And so you have to keep in mind, personalities will be inconsistent. There's some days when I just don't feel it and I have to plaster on that look. But if my system is consistent, then it doesn't matter how I show up personally. Like, I will always be able to deliver at a high level. So it's very important. So here's our closing reflection today. So the reminder is simple. Don't be disarmed by the charm, but appreciate kindness, value professionalism. But at the end of the day, you have to require people to perform, whether that is someone who is serving you, whether that is someone who is on your team, delivering a service that you have to look after. You have to require performance. Loyalty should never come at the cost of clarity, right? And so be clear on that. Ask yourself again, where have you accepted less because it felt good? And use that to just start doing better tomorrow. It is okay. I think we've all been disarmed by the charm before, but that doesn't mean that we have to be disarmed by the charm again. So as always, man, we appreciate you all for coming out. This is another episode of Cue the Mind, Disarmed by the Charm, episode 7. We are almost done with this series from impulsive to intentional. We will see you next time. You're still on the cue.